Well, hello, Vicky Voss.
Yes, hello, Fiona. How are you today?
I'm fine, and I just want to tell everyone that we are coming from opposite sides of the political spectrum. I am Fiona Falcone from the right, you are Vicky Voss from the left, and I'm going to try to red pill you today.
Oh, really?
I'm going to give it a try,
Okay.
yes.
All right, what do you want to red pill me on?
Well, could I tempt you with a little bit of child sexual abuse?
Oh,
I'm sorry. And
what a horrible topic.
I know, but we're going to have to bleep every other word on this YouTube video today because
It's going to be infuriating?
well, no, it's not so much that, but if you even utter these words, on YouTube, you get strikes.
Oh, sure.
You get not so. I mean, God forbid you should utter these words, but you should hear what they're getting away with doing in real life.
Yeah, I'm
but,
sure.
But we don't say these words.
Right.
Right. I mean, that would be offensive.
Right.
Go ahead and rape 13-year-old girls and put them into child sexual slavery rings, but don't say it. Just don't say it out loud.
So I assume this is regarding the article that you sent me about the British Pakistani rape gang?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay.
In a nutshell, the situation we have was young teenage girls, mostly white, being preyed upon by mostly British Pakistani men, being swapped around in effectively child sexual slavery rings.
Right.
And authorities turning a blind eye to it, partly out of sheer incompetence, but at least partly out of fear of being called racist.
Right, yes. I read the article. It was extremely disheartening. And then to find out it's been going on since when? 1997?
Oh, at least, yeah. That long.
Yeah. So it was absolutely horrifying to read about. I was really surprised. I think I've mentioned this before. I was really surprised that that the the ethnic background of the perpetrators were Pakistani, to be honest, because I've always assumed I've stereotyped British Pakistani immigrants to be extremely religious, very pious, God-fearing, celibate. So I was shocked, that was the ethnic background, at least in this particular case in this article. And then the fact that it's coming from an article from Al Jazeera.
Yes.
So it made it credible. And it was just extremely disheartening and infuriating to read about.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm I know that this is going to become another thing. This is another thing that conservatives talk about, which is that because they're some of our societies, and in this case British society, is so busy trying to be politically correct that in cases like this it ends up justice is not served out of political correctness, right? That's where you're going with this?
Well, that's one place. I was going to add, and who pays the price? Who pays the price?
Innocent girls. Right?
Girls, females.
Right.
Anyway, I want to tie this in with something that you experienced in 2008, back when Hillary Clinton surely had the nominations sewed up,
right,
for the Democrat nominee for U.S. president. And what happened? Who showed up?
Yes, Barack Obama.
A cool black guy, a
Yes.
groovy black guy. And I remember you telling me at the time how, you had finally collapsed in something like acceptance and resignation when you said to a friend of yours, "You're going to vote for the cool black guy, aren't you?" And he said, "Yeah." And it was so clear then that it was all about identity. It wasn't about who had put in the work. It wasn't about who had the ideas. It was about identity. And at that time, Gloria Steinem wryly declared, "Race trumps gender."
Right, yes. And I know we got into some really, really heavy conversations at that time. I remember them. I was torn up during that election because, of course, I normally would love to vote for Barack Obama. He's the perfect Democrat candidate. And I didn't vote for him in that election, but I did vote for him the second time around. And I still love Barack Obama. But I was just horrified at how I call them Obama bros. It was mostly young white men that worked in the Obama campaign, just heaped, and they felt they had license to heap incredible, like just the most horrifying, disgusting misogyny on Hillary Clinton I've ever seen. I mean, pretty much every single article, forum, thread during the Hillary Clinton versus Obama portion of that campaign was filled with rape fantasies about Hillary Clinton wanting to kill her, murder her, rape her, and it was all Obama bros. Later on, I forgave Obama because I'm sure he had no idea that his young men were doing this. But it was horrifying. And I remember getting into really sticky conversations, about race and gender and all that stuff.
Well, not only those conversations were not only with me, but with your fellow, blue adherents online. I mean, it was also your fellow Democrats.
Yes, yeah, it was. And so do you bring this up then to say that in the case of this British rape gang, you're saying that this is yet another instance where the racial background of the perpetrators is more important to British society than the justice being served for young white girls or something.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
A slightly bigger principle than that, and that is, who is it who engages in these identity politics? I'm trying to get you to come one step closer to our side, because we can't stand identity politics. We are trying to get rid of DEI programs right now, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in private industry, in higher education, in government agencies. We are trying to get rid of it all over the place because we are sick of what Larry Elder has called the Victolympics. Who has the biggest, victim creds? I mean, that's how you get your social creds nowadays, is how many victim points you have. Oh, I'm black and lesbian and something else, and so give me, advance me that higher up the ladder, and advance any victims I have that further down. If you're a white girl, you just don't have victim creds at all, even if you get literally raped.
Okay, but here's the thing. Even in that Al Jazeera article, which did lend a lot of credibility to this whole thing, the author acknowledged that it was not the right that while the police constable or whatever, the British police constable, acknowledged that they were afraid of being called racist, and that's partly why they didn't go after these guys. But in that article, the author did acknowledge that blaming it all on, Muslim immigrants or something is not the answer, and also acknowledged that there was a fair amount of white male rapists that were also not being arrested.
Right, that's where the sheer incompetence comes in.
Right, the sheer incompetence. Right. So to me, it's the danger in, if we were to take a conservative approach, which is that, just stop, worrying about being called racist and address, whatever criminal activity is going on, whatever. I think that in a lot of cases, maybe not in Britain necessarily, but in a lot of places still, that does happen, and it happens in the extreme, in the opposite direction, where you have innocent, like in America, for instance, where you have innocent black men still being accused of raping a white woman when they actually had nothing to do with it all, or they just, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think the problem is we have enough of that still going on, the leftover from segregation days and all of that stuff. We still have too much of that going on also.
Okay, I think the days... Okay, go ahead, finish.
Yeah. So I think the problem is, so we used to have the extreme, right, where we had innocent black men being accused of crimes, especially against women. This is a very touchy subject, at least among the African American community, and men being, black men being killed or whatever, hanged or whatever because of this. So, and then I feel, my concern is there's still enough of that still going on, that if we were to just say, oh my gosh, everybody stop worrying about being racist and just go after these guys, it's going to swing in the other direction, where we're going to have then innocent, in the case of England, Pakistani men being arrested because they're assumed to be part of this rape gang when maybe they have nothing to do with it at all. I think that's where we have this, we just cannot seem to find an unbiased middle ground, I feel.
Okay, first of all, I think the days of To Kill a Mockingbird are mostly over. I think they're over, in fact.
I don't think they are.
Oh, I don't think you can have a trial like happened in To Kill a Mockingbird, where they present all the evidence that absolutely shows that this girl is making it up and the guy wasn't there, et cetera, and a white jury will convict the person anyway. There would be so much publicity on something like that. There would be so much outrage. I mean, the things that are happening right now, in fact, in many, I hate to say it, I'm just really reluctant to say this, but, well, I'll back up a little bit. Thomas Sowell, a black economist at Stanford, economist associate, he's in everything. He has said that, unfortunately, black people have gained their power strictly through politics instead of economic power. He says the way you need to gain power is economically.
Yes.
You have to become wealthy enough to be able to say, I'm going to choose these products, not those products. I am going to insist that politicians vote for these programs and policies, not those. You have to have that kind of sway. You've got to have the power of the purse. Like individuals have to have that kind of kind of power.
That makes sense.
Instead of just taking people who are unqualified, inexperienced, people who don't know what it is to work your way up. Just taking people like that and dropping them into political office. Just dropping them into power. And we have seen, I hate to say it, but there is this list piling up of black people, black mayors, district attorneys, and then a lot of them female, who are shown to be corrupt. Right now, we've got this Fonnie Willis case in Georgia that is falling apart. It was one of the great popes for prosecuting Donald Trump.
Oh right.
Whole thing falling apart. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to go too far with this. I just want to say that this could be because some people did not have to just work their way up through excellence and through through fair competition. I mean, they got their positions because of identity politics.
Okay, so in the case of the British, like these British gangs, okay, are the police? So in their situation, I know a lot about what's going on in America, about American politics. I've read a lot about African American politicians and all these different things. I feel well versed in what's happening here. But what I'm trying to understand is what's happening over there in England. So are the police chiefs that are refusing to prosecute these Pakistani gangs, are they also Muslim or Pakistani? I mean, what is going on there?
They're white guys and they're terrified of being called racist.
Okay.
And to finish my point, in fact, I had kind of forgotten what my own point was, but my point was, I think I remembered it now.
Okay, sorry.
It was,
mean to interrupt.
no, it's okay, it's okay. It was that if To Kill a Mockingbird was happening now,
yes,
you would hear about it so loud. I mean, we already have a situation where black people are in control of the prosecutions. They are judges, they're prosecutors, they are mayors, and if this sort of thing was rampant, if there were like many To Kill a Mockingbird scenarios going on, you would hear about it. Oh my gosh, those things would be prosecuted and they would be publicized to the skies.
Okay, but what about, I mean, I feel like we still have many black men, especially young black men, who are afraid of being around a white woman. I mean, they're afraid of even touching a white woman, because I think that there's To Kill a Mockingbird is still a fear that they live with.
Okay, well, that's an unreasonable fear, and I think if you look at FBI stats, and this is something that I did not prepare for today's little presentation, but if you look at FBI stats, you would see that the vast majority of sexual assaults by black males are on black females. Sad but true.
And actually that doesn't surprise me at all. I remember there was a period of time when I was really into politics where I was really angrily advocating for black women because they were the primary victims, unfortunately, of male sexual violence. And so I believe you on that point. I do. But I guess I'm still struggling to understand, exactly like what is happening in England. Is it really that they're not going after them because they're afraid of being called racist, or is there something else going on? What other possible explanation could it be for not arresting these guys for so long?
I know. I think that's it, because if that is one of those labels, racist, that you cannot disprove. You can't say it's like child molestation.
They're afraid their careers will be ruined, or
their careers will be ruined. I mean, if you say I am not a racist, the response is, yeah, that's exactly what a racist would say.
Yeah, I know.
And you can't say, but look at my friends, look at my associate. That's my best friend is. I've heard that one before. There's just no way to disprove a charge that you are in your heart racist and motivated by racial hatred to go out and do the things you're doing, when it just happens that, look, I'm sorry, but sometimes black people commit crimes. Sometimes, Pakistani Muslims commit crimes. It happens.
Okay, so what would if you were to try to red pill me, what would be a conservative's answer to, I'm sure there's British conservatives who have been all over this. So what is what would be their answer to this problem? We have police chiefs in England who are afraid of being called racist, apparently, but who also are not arresting white guys who are involved. So,
yes.
So what's going on there? Are they just misogynist? Is there any chance that they're actually just misogynist police chiefs that don't give a shit about women?
Race trumps gender. And who pays the price? Who pays the price?
Innocent girls. Right?
Girls. So anyway, this is where I'm trying to red pill you into agreeing that your side has got it wrong on identity politics.
But we don't. I mean, here's the thing. We still have... What about all of these innocent black men that keep getting shot up by police? I mean, it's still a huge problem. Look at George Floyd. I mean, it's...
Oh my God.
But
oh my God.
Is the problem.
Don't tell me you believe that George Floyd got shot for being black and that all these innocent men...
I do.
Okay, that's another case where we have to get out the FBI stats.
Okay, well, we have all of these policemen. They think that, that all black people are the same, or they look the same. They get even if there actually is a black person that's committing a crime, they accidentally get somebody else who's innocent because they look like them. I mean, we have too many black men that are still just being innocent black men who are being killed.
As for the George Floyd case, I don't know. The dude he was found to have so many times the, lethal, not legal, but lethal limit of fentanyl in his system. And it was also finally determined by the coroner he did not die from injuries to his neck or strangulation or anything. He died of a heart attack from lethal doses of drugs in his system.
Yeah, there's a video of police just pounding on him. I mean, it's just horrifying to watch.
I didn't see them. I saw the one guy with his knee on his neck or something.
Yes, on a curb. I mean, it's just horrifying. It was, to me, the response was not even close to did not match the crime that they thought he committed. What, they thought he was a drug addict or something. But okay, can I just share a personal story?
Okay, sure.
Okay, an anecdote.
Sure.
Okay, anecdote. Okay. So I drive a borrowed car right now. I lost my own vehicle. I drive a borrowed car that's registered in a black man's name. Okay, and for the first time ever, I was pulled over, and I believe I was being treated this way because the car is registered in a black man's name. Okay. I was pulled over in the Midwest by this cop, and of course he looked up the registration on the car, and sure did a whole background check on the actual owner of the car, who was, like I said, a black man. And I had failed to produce the insurance on the car and whatever documents he needed. And this has never happened to me before ever in my life, driving as a white girl. Okay. So, and this cop became absolutely enraged. I mean, he became enraged. He started screaming at me. Okay, he thought that I was some, girlfriend of some criminal, some black guy criminal or something, and that I was probably a criminal too. And he absolutely lit into me. And I said, "Look, so officer, calm down. This was in my home state in the Midwest, a very rural part of town where I know pretty much everybody. And so, but I didn't happen to know this guy, but I was very comfortable in that space because it's an area where I'm from. And so I thought, okay, this is just some guy, this is some guy from the next town that I probably went to high school with or something." And I said, "Sir, just calm down. I'll go and get the insurance. Probably got to be somewhere in the back of the car." I got out of the car and he freaked out. "Get back in the car!" I mean, he thought I was going to the back of the car to get a weapon or something. He was out of his mind. Okay, he absolutely lost it on me, and so I never was able to produce insurance. I got a ticket. And I went and fought it, because he just lit into me and was just screaming at me during the entire stop, okay, and acting like a crazy person, frankly. And he was driving an unmarked cop car. I was so appalled at how he treated me. I fought that ticket in court. I went to court, okay, and I kid you not. And I remember thinking, I wonder how many times this happens to black men every day. He edited out the entire audio where he's screaming at me and kept the part where I wasn't yelling back at him, but I was like, "Sir, calm down, what's wrong with you?" To make it look like I was talking smack or something. And he edited out the entire segment where he's screaming at me.
Deceptive editing. Okay, go on.
Yes.
Go on. That happens.
Yes. Okay. And I am convinced that happened because I'm driving a car registered in a black man's name. the whole thing was absolutely mind-blowing to me, okay? And I just remember thinking at the time, I wonder how many times this happens to black men every day. They get screamed dead, treated like a criminal, they're just looking for some insurance papers, the cop's freaking out, thinks that they're armed and dangerous, and I mean, it was insane.
Okay.
So that's just a little story I want to share with you. And I know I'm never going to blue pill you on this issue, but it would be interesting to put on a black man's suit for a day and just see what it's like. That's what that was what I would propose.
Okay, this is a very subjective interpretation.
Well, that's what this is.
Of a
theory.
lone event. Okay, and so it sounds to me as though I am not going to persuade you today to
red pill me.
I'm not able to red pill you, even though I do want you to think about the destructiveness of identity politics.
And I want to say I am sick reading about these girls in England. It makes me sick.
Yeah,
it does.
Yes,
if I had a daughter, I would be absolutely enraged. I mean, it's reading stories like this.
I know.
You wonder how anybody lets their daughter out of the house. To
right.
be honest.
Right.
And it's just awful. And then the fact that the police are too afraid of offending the immigrant community or whatever. And again, I have to reiterate, I was really surprised to find, I have a stereotype about Pakistani British people being extremely religious, pious, celibate even, and I just was like, what is this? It just blows up all of my positive stereotypes about British Pakistani people. So it was horrifying to read. But the author did acknowledge that there's also a fair amount of white British men who are also raping these girls and are getting away with it.
Well, but I don't think they were forming gangs. I mean, just because they are white people are the majority of the population, then they will be committing the majority of the crimes. But this was something where, it was an organized ring, and the cops just said, took a step back. Not these perps. Lump it, lady. You'll get over it.
Yeah, that's insane.
You'll be old and ugly before you know it, and they won't bother you anymore. I know. So, well, anyway, I think we still need to get to the bottom of, this kind of tragedy and outrage where people, where literally women are sacrificed at an altar of political correctness, and I think it's more because of one side of the political divide than the other. And that was why I would like you to just consider these things and maybe just take one step closer to my side where we treat everyone equally.
I know, but part of the reason why we have so what you're essentially saying on this issue is that we've swung too far to the left, right, in political correctness, and now we have...
It's got us in this absurd situation where we're now having, like I said, a Victolympics, and certain people win and certain people lose. Right,
but the reason why, I'm the left, and I consider myself center left, have a tendency to resist the urge to go, like if something happens to a white girl, resist the urge to blame the closest black guy is because of the To Kill a Mockingbird days.
Okay.
And so and what you're saying is that we've swung too far to the left where even if the perpetrator is of color, we don't want to offend anybody and all that stuff. I get what you're saying. And then a lot of times women who are often the victims of violent crime end up losing. I get that. But I also feel like, I don't know. I just feel like we I don't know. I mean,
well, let me step in. Okay. Here's what I'm saying. Yes, those outrages happened in the past, and those injustices.
Right.
Here over on my side of the political divide, we are saying that the remedy for injustice is justice, not an equal and opposite injustice.
Right.
And that is this overcompensation that's happening where, to the point that you do not arrest suspects of color, because that might tilt us back towards the old days of over prosecutions of people of color.
Right.
This is where you wind up. You actually wind up with innocent people suffering horribly. The thing to do is just, like I said, stop this overcompensation. Bring everyone back to the same level where it should have been all along. I'll just repeat myself. An equal and opposite injustice is not the answer to injustice. Just justice for all. The same justice, regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your gender, anything. Everyone gets the same. No more DEI, no more set-asides. It's just equal opportunities for all.
Okay, so, but a lot of what you just said just now to me applies to what happens here in America, right? And,
yeah.
And this,
yes.
but this this particular article that we're talking about is in Europe, and things are different in Europe. So the other thing that surprised me, and again, this is all anecdotal, I didn't come with a batch of statistics, but I have my own experiences in Europe. I've been there many times. I have a huge European family that I visit frequently. The other thing that surprised me is because in my experience, European police are a lot more racist than American police.
Oh, I think Europeans in general are. European individuals are more racist.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I'm going to share another anecdote.
Okay.
And which is why I'm really surprised that the British police were reluctant to go after this Pakistani gang, because I've always perceived them to be more than happy to go after any Pakistanis for anything. So I'm going to share another story. I was traveling around Europe with an African American friend of mine, and we were on the border, okay, between Belgium and France, I think, okay, and we were on a bus. And my friend happens to be the only person of color on the entire bus. Okay, it's all white Europeans and me and my African American friend. And we're crossing the border. You have to get out. You have to get out of the bus, and you have to run all your bags through and everything. Out of the entire bus load, and I think there was 2 buses full, all white people, and then my one African American friend. He's the only one who French cops stopped, detained, emptied out his entire bag, went through everything. He had a tent, and they took the tent apart. They were absolutely convinced that he had drugs or something on him. And this is because because I guess I have no, I am not afraid of police, generally speaking. I actually marched up to those French cops and I said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "This is racism. This is racism." He's the only person. I started chewing out these French cops. Okay? And they let him go.
Okay.
But see, that's been my experience in Europe. And so again, it's all my personal stories. That's all I have. I don't but so that has been my experience with the French police, for instance. So it shocks me that these British police are supposedly don't want to go after these guys because they don't want to be called racist. Okay, it seems like go ahead.
That is the power. That is the power of this fear of being called racist. And
they were motivated by racism. They obviously, you have to understand that bus was coming from Amsterdam to France via Belgium. There were white kids on those buses who were high and stoned out of their mind. They weren't even sober. You know what I mean?
Well, no European is.
So anyway, So in terms of this situation in England, the whole thing just flies in the face of my experiences there.
Well, I think this is happening all over the West, though. This is a Western thing right now. Is that this whole the British Empire is supposed to apologize to all of its former. The royal family is supposed to go around apologizing to all the former protectorates and colonies and all the people that they civilized, and and Americans are supposed to pay reparations to Black Americans. It's going on all over the dang place right now, and it's so what you see happening in England is not just it's not like this strange European thing. It's happening on both sides of the Atlantic.
Okay. Well, I just feel that there's still enough. There's still enough outrageous racism that, and this is why Black people, I think, or people of color, have such a difficult time fighting it, is because, just like this conversation right now, they don't walk around armed with statistics and proof and evidence. It's very hard to prove that you have been discriminated against. You know what I mean? It's
also hard to prove that you are not discriminating. That's why I just say
That's
drop
the
whole thing.
That's fair enough.
Just drop
impossible.
everything from this whole. Just drop it. Just stop.
It's impossible.
Stop seeing people in terms of black and white. Stop saying it was a black perp and a white cop, or a black cop and a white perp, or just stop it.
But see, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think it's just people categorize. That's how people think and observe each other. That's
because these obsessions are artificial. They are something that we're doing because of the media, because of academics, because of entertainment, because of all these communication industries and whatever you call them, but institutions. Normal people don't think that way. We're not thinking that way on a daily basis, and I that's why I just think that we need to drop all this artificial, forced obsession over identities. Get it out of our out of this, public whatever what am I trying? Well, anyway, I'm just losing my. I'm just
no,
babbling incoherently now.
I get it. I know. I know conservatives. I know decent conservatives' point of view on this issue. I do. I know. They really truly want everybody to be colorblind. That's what they really want. That's what they think is the most progressive way forward. I get it. I'm also saying that I don't think we as a society are capable of doing that.
Well, I think I don't think we should give up on ourselves like that. I think that we should just remember. I mean, there was probably a time, and there probably are places, and even in our childhood, we knew we didn't think that way.
Yes.
Yeah, where we were colorblind. Yes.
Of course.
So we're capable of doing it. It's that we are educating ourselves, and we're brainwashing ourselves into thinking this way, and we don't even need to. We don't even need to do it. We can stop it, and we need to stop it.
I don't think you've successfully red-pilled me yet.
Okay.
But can you tell us exactly what happened with these poor women in England? Do we know how it was resolved?
There were some arrests. After a long time, there were some arrests, and some men were put away, and those women did get to tell their stories. And I think that's basically, but I think there were a lot more people who got away with horrible, unforgivable misdeeds, crimes, and there are victims.
And for so long.
For so long. There are men out there who had their fun.
Right.
And will never have to pay for it. And there are women who probably are still
scarred for life.
Scarred and too ashamed to talk about it.
Right.